Hey, welcome. All right, let's just get right into it, because I have a feeling I know exactly why you're here. You're trying to learn how to code, but that logic part, it just isn't clicking. So in this explainer, we're going to break down a totally different way to think about building that programming muscle, one that, actually works.
Does this sound about right? You get the syntax, you know what a for loop is, you understand what a function does, but then you're staring at a blank screen, trying to build something from the ground up, and you just feel stuck. I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. This is probably the single biggest hurdle for pretty much every new developer.
And let's be real for a second. The advice you usually get is not great. Just practice more, or go solve 1,000 problems on some coding website. This isn't just bad advice, it's honestly discouraging. Grinding away at random problems with no real strategy, it's like trying to build a house by just making a giant pile of bricks and hoping for the best. It's not gonna work.
So, okay, if that's the wrong way to go about it, what's the right one? Well, it starts by doing something that feels a little weird, forgetting about complex logic just for a moment. The real foundation, the very first thing you need to truly master, is something called data flow.
See, before you can tell the computer what to do, you have to have a deep, almost intuitive understanding of what's happening with your data. How does a value change when it's inside a loop? What exactly is getting passed into that function, and what is coming out the other side? That right there, that's data flow. And mastering this, it's completely non-negotiable.
So how do you practice this? It's actually pretty simple. It's called a dry run. No computer necessary. I want you to take a basic loop, and on a piece of paper, I want you to manually write down the value of your variables for every single time the loop runs. I know, it feels slow, it feels tedious, but this physical act, it builds a mental model in your head that is absolutely essential for writing complex code later on.
Okay, so once you start getting a real feel for data flow, the next step is to start applying it. But how you apply it is so critical. This is really about your learning philosophy, and it's where most people get it wrong. It's all about choosing the right battles.
Look, we all have huge ambitions. We want to build the next Netflix or a massive e-commerce empire. And that's awesome, but trying to build those things on day one, that's just a recipe for burnout. The real, actual progress happens when you focus on what you should build first, which, a lot of the time, is something that seems deceptively simple.
And that brings us to the good old to-do app. A lot of people see this as a beginner project, but it's not. It's a foundational project. It is your training ground. This is where you master the core of basically every application out there. Creating, reading, updating, and deleting data, what we call CRUD. Then you can start layering on more complexity, like search and filtering, things you'll use in every big project you ever build.
Think of it like this. In his movies, Jackie Chan's teachers never started by teaching him some crazy flying kick. Nope, they made him practice the absolute basics over and over and over again until they were just second nature. Your to-do app, that's your training. Don't ever underestimate it.
So how do you actually structure this practice? Well, here's a game-changing idea, the 90-10 principle. It's simple. You follow a tutorial or a course for 90% of a project. You let it guide you, but that last 10%, that's all you. You have to take everything you've just learned and add a small feature completely on your own. This forces you to apply what you've learned, not just copy and paste.
And that brings us right to our next core idea, which is all about putting this theory into action. This requires a little shift in your mindset. I want you to stop thinking about building projects and start thinking about adding value. It's a small change in words, but I promise you, it's a huge change in how you practice.
So your goal, especially when you're starting out, is not to build some giant application from a blank file. No, it's to take a project that already exists, maybe when you just finished from a tutorial, and add one small, meaningful feature to it. This is how you build the bridge between following instructions and actually creating something yourself. So what does adding value even look like? It's really simple and concrete. If the project you just built has a login page, your job is to figure out how to add a registration page. If you built a simple e-commerce app, you add a wish list feature. If you built a calculator that only adds numbers, you make it subtract and multiply. Each one of these small additions is a little victory that builds real-world logic skills.
And all of this, all of it, the data flow, mastering the fundamentals, adding small bits of value, it is all leading to one thing. And it's not about becoming a syntax expert. It's about something much more important.
I want you to think of your skill journey kind of like this chart.
Mastering the fundamentals, everything we've been talking about, that gets you to a solid 60% of the way there. And those really difficult algorithm websites, they're for later. They're what take you from 60 to 80%.
And this right here is the key takeaway. You absolutely cannot skip that first step. Trying to jump straight to those 80% challenges without a solid 60% foundation is exactly why so many people get frustrated and just quit. You have to build your base first. There are just no shortcuts.
So, what is the ultimate goal? What are we really building with all of these small steps? It isn't just a portfolio. It's this. The single most important concept in all of programming is confidence. It's more valuable than knowing any one language or any framework.
And why is confidence so important? Because let's face it, you're never going to know everything. It's impossible. Confidence isn't about having all the answers in your head. It's the belief that even when you see code you don't understand, you know you can break it down. It's the belief that you can find the solution you need in the documentation, and more importantly, that you'll actually be able to implement it in your own project.
So I'm going to leave you with this question. Forget about building the next big thing, just for now. Look at a project you've worked on recently, and just think, what one small feature are you going to add this week? Start there. Build your confidence, one small piece of value at a time.